Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly completely transcends sports. We are exploring the incredible and frankly mind-blowing journey of Lionel Messi. This is the tale of a boy whose life goes way, way beyond just football records, trophies, and flashy highlight reels. It's really a story of raw resilience, of overcoming practically impossible odds, and of totally redefining what greatness means on a global stage. So let's kick things off with a pretty crazy question right out of the gate. What if the absolute greatest footballer to ever play the game was once told he was simply too small? I mean, how does a player deemed too short, too weak, and just not physically good enough somehow become the world's most inspiring champion? It's a massive paradox, right? But it sits at the very heart of his legend, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack for you today. Section 1. A Dream Almost Lost. Humble Beginnings. To really understand the champion, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Let's travel back to June 24th, 1987, down in Rosario, Argentina. Lionel definitely wasn't born into wealth or privilege. His dad, Jorge, worked long hours in a steel factory and actually coached the local youth team on the side, while his mom, Cilia, also worked in a factory just to help support the family. At just 5 years old, little Lionel joined that local club, Grandoli. Now, he wasn't the tallest, and he certainly wasn't the strongest, but he was miraculously dribbling past kids way older than him, literally running circles around them with this unbelievable balance. This raw, undeniable talent eventually landed him at Newell's Old Boys, which is one of Argentina's most famous youth clubs. He was scoring goals for fun there, and pretty soon, people were already whispering about this kid being a future superstar. But just as his star was really beginning to shine, everything kind of came crashing down. At age 11, he was diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency. Basically, this meant his body just wasn't producing enough growth hormone on its own. Without treatment, his normal physical growth would be severely hindered. Suddenly, this prodigy who seemed destined to conquer the football world was facing a harsh medical reality that threatened to completely end his professional dreams before they even got off the ground. So here is the absolute kicker. $1,000. That was the monthly cost for his required medical treatment. To put that into perspective, for the Messi family, and honestly even for the local Argentine clubs who were absolutely in awe of his talent, that was just an impossible amount of money. They searched everywhere for help, they really did, but nobody was willing to foot the bill. At that point, it truly seemed like the dream was over. Section 2. The Barcelona Breakthrough. But sometimes, all it takes is one single crazy opportunity to change a life forever. At age 13, his family took a massive leap of faith, crossing the Atlantic to Spain for a trial with FC Barcelona. And wow, within minutes, the coaches knew they were looking at a once-in-a-generation talent. In fact, Barcelona's sporting director was so terrified of losing him to another team, he actually scrambled and wrote up the very first agreement on a literal paper napkin. You cannot make this stuff up. Most importantly, the club agreed to pay for his medical treatment. Fast forward a bit to October 16, 2004, and this quiet, shy teenager from the La Masia Academy makes his official first-team debut at just 17. Shortly after that, he scores his first senior goal off a picture-perfect pass from none other than Brazilian legend Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho actually lifted the young Messi onto his shoulders right after, basically introducing football's next king to the world. Section 3. Rewriting Football History. A Football Genius. It is absolutely wild how this shy kid who crossed the ocean fundamentally transformed into the undeniable face of FC Barcelona, and really the face of the sport itself. I mean, his dribbling was just impossible to stop, his vision and his deadly finishing helped Barcelona utterly dominate both Spain and Europe. He became the club's all-time leading goal scorer. He completely shattered the record for the most goals in a single calendar year. European Golden Boots, he was collecting those things like souvenirs. And the Ballon d'Or, football's highest individual honor, something most players would give anything to win just once, Messi made winning it a habit for over a decade. He wasn't just winning league titles and Champions League trophies, he was literally redefining what greatness looked like, causing fans all over the globe to ask not if he was one of the best, but if he was the absolute greatest of all time. But, and this is a huge but, despite his total dominance with Barcelona, we really have to contrast that with a completely different reality happening at the exact same time. While his club career was defined by this unstoppable, glittering success, his international career was defined by agonizing heartbreak, incredibly heavy expectations, and the crushing pressure of an entire nation. Section 4. The Weight of a Nation. Playing for Argentina. You see, Argentina was desperately waiting for their hero. Can he do it for Argentina? That was the heavy, inescapable question hanging over his every single move. It marked the most emotionally draining chapter of his career. In Argentina, football isn't just a sport, right? It's woven into the very identity and soul of the nation. Because of his immense talent, Messi was constantly being compared to the legendary Diego Maradona, and fans expected him to deliver the biggest prize on earth, the FIFA World Cup. No pressure, right? It was a rough road. First, he endured years of brutal major final losses, with public criticism just growing louder and louder by the day. It all finally reached a breaking point after a truly devastating loss in the 2016 Copa America final. The pressure got so incredibly unbearable that he shocked the world and announced his retirement from international football. Millions of fans were totally devastated. It really felt like the dream was done. But, as we know, legends don't just walk away. Actually, scratch that. He didn't walk away for long. Only weeks later, he returned. Instead of letting that profound failure define him, he used it as fuel. He came back with a resilience that united and inspired a whole new generation of Argentine players. Section 5. The ultimate glory. Achieving the dream. And that renewed determination, that sheer refusal to give up, it set the stage for one of the most spectacular resurrections the global sporting world has ever witnessed. In 2021, those years of pain finally ended when Argentina defeated Brazil at the legendary Maracanã Stadium, no less, to win the Copa America. When that final whistle blew, Messi literally fell to the ground in tears. But the ultimate test was still waiting, the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. After a shocking opening defeat that had the entire world doubting them all over again, Messi stayed remarkably calm. He inspired his teammates, he scored crucial goals, and he drove them all the way to a legendary final against France. I mean, talk about a heart stopper. It was easily one of the greatest football matches ever played. Extra time, penalties, the entire world literally holding its breath. And then, victory. Generations of dreams came true as Lionel Messi finally lifted the FIFA World Cup trophy. It was the one iconic, elusive prize that had always escaped him. His journey was officially complete. Now, you'd think he'd just ride off into the sunset after achieving football's greatest dream, right? Nope, his passion never faded. He kicked off a completely new chapter by joining Inter Miami in the United States. Almost overnight, he transformed the club and brought this unprecedented wave of global attention to North American football, just continuing to inspire fans and young players everywhere he goes. So, what's the real takeaway here? When we look back at that small boy in Rosario who couldn't even afford his medicine, we realize that his story is about so much more than goals or records. His true greatness was built on deep humility, unmatched perseverance, relentless hard work, and the incredibly rare ability to take agonizing failure and turn it into the ultimate motivation. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Records are going to get broken eventually, and new stars will always rise. But stories like this, they're completely timeless. If a small rejected boy from Rosario could overcome a medical diagnosis, cross an ocean, face the crushing weight of an entire nation, and eventually conquer the world, what impossible obstacle will your courage help you overcome today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep that courage going.